Hello, I'm Jude and this is Philip, and together we are Follow the Van.
And today we're going to be talking about the maturation of Rhone wines and the different techniques that are used and how that impacts on the character of the wine. Now, a lot of our guests who are touring regularly, whether it be in Napa or Sonoma or even in Europe, perhaps in Bordeaux and Burgundy, reporting back on how many oak barrels they see. Usually they say that when they go into an American winery, the winemaker is always very proud to say that they're using only the best French oak to mature their wines. And it might be tempting to think that the use of oak is universally synonymous with the production of a quality wine. But not so in the Rhone Valley.
And this is really to do with the history of winemaking in the area. So wine has been made in that part of what is now France for a long time. So the Phoenicians and the Greeks and the Romans came to the port of Marseille, and they all drank wine. But it was really the Romans who brought with them the science of winemaking and who expanded the vineyards throughout France. And the Romans never used wood. They made their wine in either large clay amphora that they called dolia, or they used stone vats, and you can still see some of those.
Absolutely right. At Chateau Saint-Côme in Gigondas, you can still see the original stone cuves that were used for fermenting and maturing the wine.
And then this developed into a tradition of using concrete vats, and in fact it was the Romans themselves who invented concrete. And so they make the wine in these big concrete tanks, really, aren't they? And they're not nearly so romantic.
They're not. I have to say, a lot of our guests who first see those vats in the winery are a bit disappointed. They are not as attractive as the barrels. They are large, they are functional, and interesting. But having said that, many of the forward-thinking wineries are beginning to invest in these rather more attractive shapes. Here's the tulip shape, for example, made of brushed concrete. These are designed by Italians, often built in Italy. And in my view, they are really quite attractive. And I understand they're becoming more and more fashionable in use in California at the moment.
So that's the aesthetics and the romance. But I did say that the Romans brought with them the science of winemaking. So what is the science behind the use of concrete?
I think the best way to understand the science of concrete usage is to understand why you would use an oak barrel. So essentially two reasons why we're using an oak barrel. The first is to allow the gradual ingress of oxygen that penetrates the barrel, creates a chemical reaction with the wine, and those wines that have high levels of tannin will be smooth, will be mellowed by that reaction so that they're palatable to drink when bottling. So that's the first reason. The second reason might be that the winemaker is looking for some kind of flavor enhancement directly from the wood itself. So the toasting that goes on inside the barrel to bend the staves is imparting some kind of toasty characteristic, vanilla, whatever it might be, to the wine itself. But the issue really for the Rhone Valley is that Grenache, the Grenache varietal, which is the king of the southern Rhone, is not a tannic variety. In fact, it lacks tannin. And you want to keep oxygen away from it because it's oxidative, it leaches in oxygen really easily, and it is best to keep oxygen away. So an inert container, like concrete, is ideal for Grenache.
So do they never use wood in the Rhone Valley?
They do use wood in the Rhone Valley. You'll see plenty of barrels, particularly in the northern part of the Rhone, where Syrah is king. Now, Syrah is the diametric opposite to Grenache. It is a highly tannic grape variety, and you most certainly need to mature in wooden barrels in order to smooth those tannins out. So in the northern part of the Rhone, with this wine, for example, Domaine Durand's Cornas, which is 100% Syrah. This has been aged in small 228 or 225 litre barriques in order to cope with the tannin level. In the southern part of the Rhone, we're used to blending. Grenache is the dominant part of the blend, Syrah the minority part. So with this wine, this is the Saint Jean de Barrault La Pierre Noire from Philippe Gimel. It's dominant Grenache, minority Syrah. Grenache kept in the concrete, away from the oxygen. Syrah kept in this case, old wood barrique, finely blended, but the wood character is very low because it's the minority part of the blend.
So, in fact, the typical traditional Rhone Valley wine does not really give off any notes of wood or taste.
It's really quite exceptional to find a southern Rhone wine that one would call oaky. The emphasis really is on the fruit, whether that be black fruit or red fruit, these kind of wild herb tastes that they call garrigue, spices, pepper, these kind of characteristics, not so much the oak.
Okay, so that's the red, but what about white wine?
With the white wines, a different story.
Mm-hmm.
No tannins in the white wines, so nothing to tame. So yes, you will see some wooden barrels used, but that's absolutely the winemaker's choice, depending on the style of wine they're trying to achieve. And these two wines illustrate the point, I think, perfectly.
Well, you can tell straight away that they are different colours.
Absolutely.
That this is really much, much lighter than this one. Tell us more, what are these?
Okay, so we've got an interesting comparison here. With white wines, tannin is not the issue. No tannins in white wines. So the choice to use oak barrel is a winemaker's choice depending on the style of the wine that they are trying to achieve. So these wines are both essentially from the Viognier grape. There's a little bit of Roussanne also in the blend, but mainly
in both of them.
In both of them.
Okay.
So same varietal, same winemaker, same wine estate. The key difference is the way that they've been matured. This one in stainless steel. This one barrel fermented and then raised, matured in the barrel for 12 months or more.
So they are the same grapes from the same terroir and the same winemaker, Camille, at Saint-Amand. The only difference between them is that this one was aged in oak, and this one here was aged in stainless steel.
Correct, absolutely. This one in the oak, this one in inert stainless steel.
Mm-hmm.
So this one produces a wine that is paler in colour.
Yes, you can see
You can
that.
see that, and it's fresh, crisp, aromas of white flour, almond, stone fruit on the palate. A very fruity wine, lovely as an aperitif.
Okay. And this one?
So this wine, which has been barrel fermented and then matured in small barrique for 12 months or more, you get a wine that is much deeper in colour, almost a golden colour, has much more structure, more body. In the mouth, it has this kind of buttery feel, this rich feel to it. This one for the table, this one more for the terrace.
Okay. Yes, so this one I definitely recommend having this with food. And because it's such a full-bodied wine, it actually is a good accompaniment to quite rich food.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, you could enjoy this wine with food that other people are accompanying with red wine, if you prefer to drink white wine. So, for instance, I'm thinking something like Thanksgiving dinner, something like that. Or I would enjoy this very much with roast guinea fowl with pomegranate stuffing, something like that. So it goes really with food that it has been enhanced, that is a bit richer than
Something with a
just
sauce.
something with a sauce, something like that. and it is delicious. Well, this, yes, it's lovely with food as well, but perhaps with simpler food, with summer salads, more simply prepared vegetarian or food or fish or
Bit of barbecued,
chicks.
grilled fish.
Yes, yeah. And of course, it's also delicious on its own at aperitif time. And so that's what we're going to have, a little bit of Le Boré now.
What a very good idea.
So, cheers.
Cheers, Jude.
Cheers.
Cheers.